Hi guys. So I know a lot of you people were extremely excited with the Apple video that we had just posted a few days ago, wherein we recreated the Apple 11 launch event on InVideo entirely from scratch, right? And I know a lot of you guys wanted to know the exact process as to how we had put some of the things together. So I'm just going to kind of take you through that through this session, and I'm hoping that that helps, right? So let's quickly get started. I am inside the project, and as you can see, there are about 9 scenes here. So first things first, right? I wanted to actually help you understand how did we break this in the form of scenes. Now, obviously, the Apple event is a very fast-moving, video per se. It actually changes dramatically, and it moves from one scene to the other. So, how do you actually visualize something like that in the form of discrete scenes? So, the first thing that we did is we actually kept things very simple, right? And this is how I would go about it. Uh, any frame or scene where things change drastically is where I would divide, or I would put my divider. So, what do I mean by that? So, let's say, for example, let's look at our first scene, right? I'm just going to preview this. So what just happened in that Apple event? So as you can see, this entire scene is just text, right? There is no media whatsoever. It's just text that comes on the screen. By the way, this style of text is called kinetic typography, and I know a lot of you guys loved this form of text representation. So I'm just going to show you how we created it. But before that, let's just understand how we kind of divided our scenes, right? So now, if you look at the second scene, if I preview this, this is just a scene where Tim Cook walks on the stage, right? So that's how we split at least our first and our second scene. I will show you each scene as we progress. Actually, let's take a look at all of them, right? So the third scene now ends up being the all new iPhone, right? This particular scene is a mix and match of text and media, right? Okay, one second. Let me play that again. Right, there you go. So there's text that comes on the screen, and then we need that clip of Tim Cook pointing at the big screen. So that's why I've kept it separate, because I knew that I had to do something different, with this particular scene, and I did not want to club it with the first two. And let's go to the fourth one. This is just the Apple logo coming in with text that says thanks to the inspiration. Now, obviously, I wouldn't want to club this with the third scene. I could have, but it just kind of complicates things for me. So I've just kept it as a separate scene. Now, when I come to the fifth one, now, this again is simply a text-based scene, but what changes is the text animation. So it's not text appearing in one line. It is actually text that comes at the same place. There are words that come at the same place in the scene, and there's a very smooth effect wherein one word leaves the scene, giving way to the next word, right? So again, I've actually kept this as a separate scene, and I've only kept the text to be till the point that we have that animation, because as soon as the animation changes, I have put it in a separate scene, which is this one, right, from scratch, because I wanted to show this effect wherein scratch gets filled up, so I just kept it as a separate scene. And obviously this is a completely different kind of scene, because this is just about all in video. So again, I could have clubbed this with the first scene, but it would have just given way to too many elements, so I did not want to do that, so on and so forth, right? This is just a completely different. So this was a white screen, this was a black screen. And yeah, so the last slide is just something that we discuss at the end of the session. But yeah, that's how I've created my 8 scenes. I hope that kind of gives you the first framework to how you will take a complicated video and split it in the form of scenes, right? Now let's go over how do you actually create anything out of that, right? So let's take the first scene and deconstruct it. So let me preview this again. So what just happened in that Apple event, right? Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate. Actually, let me add a completely new scene. Okay. So if this is my completely new scene, what I'm going to do is fairly simple, right? First things first, I'm just going to change my project color to black so that my background ends up becoming black. Or actually, let me just get rid of this. Let me actually duplicate one of my existing scenes because I think the template is made that way. Let me just duplicate this. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get rid of all of this text, right? So let's just get rid of this, right? Perfect. Let me check if there's any other text that is there. Okay, but we can just keep it to whatever text is all. Okay, let me also get rid of everything else here. There is a whole lot of text in the screen. Okay, so we have a blank canvas of sorts, right? Now let's add a line of text from the left. Perfect. Now it's entirely a blank screen, right? Now I'll go to my text options, add a regular text box. I'd say let's, okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to resize this. So let me say that my font size should be 100. Perfect. And I'm just going to align this so that I can reposition the box. Perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this. So I'm just going to hit Command C, Command V, which is copy paste. I'm going to bring this here. I'll say let's do. Great. Let's copy paste that. Let's bring this here. And I'll say this. And I'll just move this so that it can be accommodated. Right? Perfect. And again, I just need one more box. I'd say, okay, this can be together, right? Great, fantastic. So now we have all of our scenes together. Here's what I'm going to do, right? We have all of our text together, sorry. So now let me just align them. So I'm just going to turn my grids on and I'll align them to this middle line. Let's do this together. If let's say this is how I want to space it, I'm just going to turn my grid off and say that, okay, you know what? For the time being, I think I can just go with this. Okay, so now that we have our text together, let's look at how are we going to time them, right? So now the easiest way to do this, obviously I can click on each one of them and actually arrange the timeline. But the alternative way to do this is if you go to layers, you'll see that all the text is in a sequential order. Let's do this together because I've just duplicated text boxes from the first text box, right? So I click on let's, that selects the first element. And I'd say that given that the scene duration is 2.70 seconds, it kicks in at 2.2 seconds and stays at 4.4 seconds, which is fair enough. Now I'll go to my second element and I'll say that that kicks in about zero point 0.3 seconds after the first word, right? Similarly, let's do, so the third one, I'll say that that kicks in about zero point 0.3 seconds after the first word, which is 2.8 seconds. There we go. All right, and that brings me to the last one, which is 3.1 second. Great. Now, if I'll preview this, you'll see that all of them pop in one after the other. Right? Perfect. So now you can, the last step that you have to do is just ensure that there is no text animation, right? Whole fade in, I don't want it to actually have any form of animation whatsoever. I just want it to appear, right? And if there is an out animation, okay, there is no out animation. Let's go to the next one. No, I don't want this to have any animation whatsoever because I actually wanted to appear without any delays whatsoever. So I'm just going to change that for all of them and done. And now if we preview this, right? So that's the idea, that all the text words come one after the other. So that is the central idea of how you can actually do kinetic text, and that is literally, now I can fasten up this process. I can say that, you know what, I want the overall gap between each word to be lesser than that, right? So I can literally keep it to 0. 0.1 second, or I can keep it to the difference to be at 0. 0.2 seconds so that it can actually move in faster. But that is literally the only hack that you need to essentially achieve kinetic text. Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, let's go to the second scene. Now, the second scene is a plain video clip. I've just uploaded the video clip and I've just trimmed it. So I don't think there's any explanation that is needed here. Let's move on to the third one. Right? Okay, perfect. So now how do we recreate this scene? I'm just going to duplicate this so that I don't mess up the original scene, because it will take me a bit of time to put it back together. Here's the trick, right? What is happening is that in a traditional timeline, you will be able to time when the text can go off and when a video starts playing. But unfortunately, at the time of us discussing this, you can't do that on InVideo because the timeline does not. So you don't have a contextual timeline for the video clip. What I mean by that is when you add a video to your scene, the video by default plays from start to finish. You can't really control when the video kicks in and when the video kicks out, as you can control with other elements like text and overlays. So what we have done is we've actually worked around that and we've added a layer on top of our video clip, as you can see. So we've just added a shape, right? We've added a shape from our enhancers. We've added a shape, change the color to black, and I put it on top of my media. So as you can see, media, then there's background, then there's text, right? So the advantage of this is that I can actually cover my video, and if I time my layer in a way that the layer disappears, or the shape disappears when I want to reveal the video in the background, I can actually do that, right? Which is exactly what is happening here. So if you look at, sorry, my bad, I'm just going to put that back. I'm going to go to background, right? That's my background layer. Okay, I'm just going to lock the text layer so that it does not, okay, there you go, right? So now if you see, the background layer is timed only till 6 seconds. That is because after 6 seconds, Tim Cook comes up on the screen. So the layer is actually intended to time out and go out of the screen, out of the scene when you want to reveal Tim Cook. So this is a great hack that you can essentially use whenever you want to have multiple elements in your screen, but you only want to reveal one of those elements at any given point in time. So for example, imagine if you have two video clips on each side of this frame, right? Now again, by default, both the videos will play from start to finish. But what if you want to reveal the first video for, let's say, the first part of the scene, and then cover it and play the second video? In that case, all you will have to do is create three such shape layers, one for the entire screen, one for one just covering the left hand video, and one just covering the right hand video. Then what you can do is, when you want to reveal just the left hand side video, you will make sure that the shape that is on top of everything else vanishes just before that point, and the shape that is there on the right hand side element or the right hand side video clip remains intact, right? And vice versa when you just want to reveal the right hand side video. Make sense? So I'm hoping that that kind of gives you a really good hack as to how you can kind of do that. Moving on, let's move on to the next scene. This is pretty plain and simple. This is just the Apple logo and the text, right? Moving on. Okay, I think this is again kinetic typography wherein the text kind of moves out and comes back in. Perfect. So the only difference between this and the first example that we had seen, wherein we had kind of created kinetic typography, is that the in and out animation style is different for the text. So let me go to the edit panel to show you what I mean. So as you can see, the animation style for this is zoom from out, which is why you get that effect wherein you're actually zooming from out and you're going in, right? And the out effect is just a zoom out, right? I can actually show you what I mean by that. So let's say if I put this here, let's preview this, right? So it actually zoomed out, right? Okay, perfect. So now I'm just going to undo that. The hack here is that if you preview this again, look very closely, you will see that the text, each word actually merges with the second word, which means that by the time made or v goes out of the screen, the next word automatically has taken its place. Now, the way to achieve that is that you overlap the in and out times of the elements. So, what do I mean by that? Let's actually go to our layers and look at each word. So, if you talk about v, you'll see that it ends at 9.1 seconds. Now, if you talk about made, it actually starts 0.1 second before that, right? It starts at 9 seconds and it goes to 9.6 seconds, which gives you that feeling that the text is overlapping, or it's flowing very smoothly. Similarly with this, it starts 0.1 second before the made as a word goes out of the scene. So that's how you achieve that smoothness, right? Again, a very very handy trick. You can do this with all kinds of animations. So if you want one word to stay there, one word to lead very smoothly into the second word, you can actually use this hack. Cool. Let's move on to the last scene. This is something that is one of the most interesting things that we've done, right? Which is we've just kind of filled in color into the word. Now I've just changed the project color, which is why it went to that. Okay, so how do you do this? This is actually one of the simplest things that you can do. It's actually two words, or it's a duplicate copy of the word scratch that has been placed on top of that, right? And what we've done is we've actually for the layer on top, we've actually given an animation of sliding in, sorry, wiping in from the left, right? And we've kept it at 1 second. You can actually speed this up as well. So if you look closely again when I preview this, you'll see that it's nothing but the above layer appearing from left to right, which gives you that notion that there is color that is being filled in the word. Now the real hack here is that uh, there is a slight delay between when the above layer comes in and when the word at the bottom appears. So, for example, this one appears at 10.8 seconds, and then the layer on top of that actually does not kick in till about 11 seconds. And the reason we have kept it that way is because you want the first white version to be seen entirely, and then you want color to start filling in. If we actually ended up starting both these words at the same time, uh, you would actually start seeing the color filling in right from the bat, which is not how you would want it to be. So at any given point in time, if you want a word to be filled with color, you know how you can go about with that, right? Perfect. So let's move on to the next one. I think this is plain and simple. It's just a word and our logo. And then obviously join us in finishing what we started. This is again a form of kinetic text, right? Great. So just to sum up everything that we've seen so far, we've seen how you can create kinetic typography animations. Please, by all means, play around with them. The reason why I haven't created the exact frame that is there in my scene or in the Apple video is because it will take you a bit of time to get it right, right? It's while it ends up being that simple, it still takes a bit of time to ensure that you're timing things perfectly well, right? But it still shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. Using shapes to manipulate video, as we just discovered, that you can actually hide a video file entirely using a shape and then just reveal a part of it whenever you want to by timing things the right way. And then obviously there's utilizing layers to create unique text animations, which is how we did fill the color in the word scratch, right? Cool, great. Thank you so much for watching this, guys, and I genuinely hope that this helps you create better videos.